Good morning and welcome to another conversation with Mose. And as always, I pray life is treating you well, exceptionally well, wherever you are in the world. And that you're one day closer to your dreams, hopes, prayers, and aspirations coming true. Going to do something special today, as always. And we're going to be celebrating the life and legacy and writings of LYNN Harris. And who better than to speak for him than himself?
I had spent about 12 years in the computer field, working for companies like IBM, Hewlett-Packard, and AT&T. I quit my job, basically, and when I finished the manuscript, I started submitting it to publishers, both large and small, black and white, and gay and straight, and the manuscript was summarily rejected by every publisher that I'd sent it to. So I self-published it and started peddling it wherever people were, in beauty shops, barber shops, sorority conventions, black expos, and what have you. And that's kind of how the whole thing got started.
I just think that's a brilliant, strategy. Go to where the women are, the women who read and all that, and get people talking.
One of our sales reps in that area heard about this amazing guy who was selling copies of his book in the back of his trunk of a car to all these hairdressing establishments in Atlanta. Brought it to the attention of one of our then editors.
I called him, and I told him who I was, and he said, "You're John Grisham's publisher, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, we are." And he said, "Nothing would make me happier than to be working with John Grisham's publisher, because that's what I want to be."
Harris didn't know he wanted to be a writer until some of his friends started dying from AIDS.
When I was losing a lot of friends to AIDS, I would write them letters, and these would be long little letters about how we met and some of the good times in our lives, because quite frankly, I didn't want them to leave here without knowing what their friendship meant to me. And one of my friends, in his final days, he called me to visit, and we went to visit, and he told me how much those letters meant to him, and said that I had a gift for writing. And he said, you should write, you should tell our stories. Now, when someone's on their deathbed, you make promises that you don't know how you're going to be able to keep. But a year and a half later, I started Invisible Life.
Invisible Life, the book that Harris first peddled from the back of his car, was eventually picked up by Doubleday and is now in its 40th printing.
Invisible Life was the start of the one-day reads of LYNN Harris books. We remember when Invisible Life came out, I was like, is he gay?
Harris's devoted female readership can be credited for his unprecedented rise to success. From IBM sales executive to literary superstar, an ascension which has become a publishing industry legend.
He gets what it is to tell a story.
He really writes about self-acceptance.
And he believes in love, and that is part of what makes his book so successful.
The same publishers who first rejected Harris were now offering him multiple book contracts and six-figure advances.
He's one of the few authors we really take a lead from on marketing plans. We surely run everything by him.
His latest novel, Not a Day Goes By, premiered at #2 on the New York Times bestseller list.
He has 10,000 hits on his website, which is pretty extraordinary. Starting a couple months ago, we sent out some wedding announcements. There's a wedding that takes place and Not a Day Goes By. We sent out a save the date card. People were sort of emailing back and forth saying, this is the wedding of the century, what are you wearing? It was like it was a real event, which is pretty amazing. And then we sent out an invitation to the rehearsal dinner. And that, I think, even generated more buzz.
While Harris's work has been acknowledged by mainstream critics for shattering stereotypes about black gay men, it has also been attacked by gay critics for its sympathy towards characters in the closet.
I think my characters are like individuals within our community. Each person needs to make the decision on how they want to lead their lives. If some people choose to live their life in the closet or choose to not identify themselves as gay or bisexual, I'm glad that we live in a country where they're able to make that decision.
The fluid sexuality of Harris's protagonists is not a common characteristic in mass-market fiction aimed at black readers. But in pioneering a new genre, Harris has attracted a wide readership, gay and straight, black and white, married and single.
How do you ladies think that Yancey really felt about Basil's bisexuality.
No one really has been able to do what he's done in the way that he's done it in sort of a mainstream way.
There had never been a gay African-American romance, as far as I know, that had been published previously. And that was a dramatic breakthrough.
I knew that to get noticed, you had to be telling a different story. You couldn't just tell boy meets girl or boy meets boy or what have you. You had to have a story that was going to intrigue people of all different backgrounds. And the characters that I created identify themselves as bisexual. Some of them didn't identify themselves as bisexual at all, even though they were having sex with men. And found a huge audience. I found that people were really interested in these type of characters.
It's been said that all novels are autobiographical, and Harris's work is no exception. As his characters have struggled with telling the truth about themselves, so has Harris.
I grew up in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I grew up in a very lower middle class, not even middle class, it was low income. But one of the things that I could aspire to were things that I saw on TV and things I read in books, to know that I didn't have to stay in the predicament that I was in as a child.
If you asked him if he was gay when I first signed him up, he would say no. I just went into the whole thing with him assuming that he was comfortable with it, and was kind of caught up short the first time that I realized he wasn't.
For me personally, the writing has definitely changed, my outlook. I find that it's much easier to tell the truth about who I am. That way I don't have to go back and correct anything that I've said in the past. And I think it's also been helpful in allowing other young African Americans or Hispanics or anybody who's dealing with sexual issues to see that it's okay to say what's so and to tell the truth.
In a further step toward telling the truth about himself, Harris has begun work on his memoirs.
The reason why we were interested in his autobiography is because he has an incredibly powerful story to tell, starting when he was a child in Arkansas and going on, I think, probably right up to the point where he publishes the first book.
The reception of his memoir, I think, will be crucial as to how he decides to continue and whether he does any nonfiction.
It's always been my ambition to branch out, to not just be known as a black gay writer, but as a writer. And I know to do that, I was going to have to attack different genres and write different stories.
Well, that was a lot, huh? Well, I just thought I would share in his own words his life, and that way I don't have to necessarily backtrack about his story. But I have to say that I'm really surprised that more people don't know about him, because it seems as though he's died, it's been some years since he's been gone, that people don't really speak his name. And I think that's a shame, or at least in the circles that should be speaking his name. And I don't understand why there isn't a movie of one of his books, at least one of his books. But I digress. I want to talk about him in a real inspirational way, using myself, of course. And I have to say that for some reason I'm a little nervous about this particular, and I think because I'm so excited about talking about him. And I'm really surprised at myself that I haven't done a podcast on him earlier on in my podcast. And to be honest with you, he just came across my feed. He was in a picture with Nikki Giovanni, and I believe it was in Atlanta. And I was just so overwhelmed to see both of them in a picture together, smiling with a group of people. And these two have made a major impact on my life, Nikki Giovanni and LYNN HARRIS. And to be both black gay writers that have made a name for themselves in such a honorable and respectful way, it was just in awe to see that picture, and I'll probably print that picture. But anyway, I want to say, as far as the earlier years when I was a young man trying to figure out who I was and on this gay journey, a friend of mine who died of AIDS years ago turned me on to LYNN HARRIS, and he actually gave me those books. It was Invisible Life and Just As I Am. And it was after my partner Sam had died, I believe. And I think he just wanted me to learn some things about myself, or maybe just to make me feel better. I'm not sure. He just told me to read them, and I did. And I cried, I was moved. I was inspired, and on so many levels. I mean, again, I had never met a black man like that, in terms of he was writing about black men that I had never met before. And I didn't have a college background, but I'm reading about these black college students, experiencing their journey as far as discovering who they are. And I had never seen that before. I had never read about it. So it was really intriguing to read about guys who looked like me, felt like me, and had feelings like me. And again, I was so enamored with his work that I started reading all of his books. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I have all of his books, even his autobiography. And it's unfortunate that I never got a chance to meet him every time he came through Atlanta. And I believe he was actually living in Atlanta or had a house there, but we just never crossed paths before he died. And I really hate that, because again, even now, his work resonates with me. And I haven't read any of his work in some years, but the impact that it had on me, that it still has on me, is incredible. And I was working at a bookstore, Barnes & Noble, in Oklahoma City. And I remember them doing a whole display of books for Gay Pride. And it was a lot of white, gay, successful people, writers and musicians and actors. And I was quite insistent that they had to include, LYNN Harris and James Baldwin and Langston Hughes. And the young people were looking at me like they didn't know who these people were. And even some of the black young people that I've come across that weren't familiar with LYNN Harris. I mean, most people know who Langston and who James Baldwin are. But it seems like when I ask about LYNN Harris, except for people of a certain age, they have no idea who he is, which is sad to me, because he's a part of gay black history, and representation does matter. And a lot of young people, to me, could benefit from reading his books, his earlier works. I think it should be a required reading in college, to be honest with you. Maybe somewhere it is. But his work is very helpful to me. I mean, it's so, words cannot describe how impactful his writings are, no matter what. I think it's impactful for a mom or a dad that may want to understand their sons or daughters that are on that gay journey, to get a better insight of their mind, how they may think. And not to say he was a mind reader that everybody felt the way he did, but I think he gave you a beginning on the journey of trying to understand gay life. And they used to say back in the day, in the life. And I believe he had a way of writing that made it palatable and comfortable for some people that may not understand. Because back on my journey of learning and discovering who I am, it was very, very difficult for me. And I went through a lot, as I've said in previous podcasts. But LYNN was like the friend that you wanted to have, that would kind of, you could confide in, you could talk to. And as he said in the excerpt, is that he lost a lot of friends to AIDS. And so did I. And I miss those guys. I really, really, really do. And it never goes away, and I've never had friends like that since. I mean, that's just the truth. I've never had friends that were silly and funny, and, and the one thing I admired about them is that they didn't feel sorry for themselves, to me, and that's why my screenplay is so important to me. And I hope to talk about that in the near future. But AIDS in the black community just hasn't gotten a voice to me since he died. I haven't seen it. I mean, again, I feel like they're still talking about the white gay experience even to this day. But it seems to omit the black gay experience when it came to AIDS and HIV in the 80s and the 90s and early 2000s. And it angers me at the end of the day. It really does. It didn't bother me back then. But now, the older I've gotten, I just don't see it. And that was such a turbulent time for the caregivers and for the people that died back then, the families and the parents of people who lost their children to AIDS back then. And it doesn't seem to be a documentary or anything on it. And correct me if I'm wrong. If you're out there and you're listening and you know of something that I could have missed, because I don't know everything. So maybe there is a documentary, maybe there's something out there. But my whole point in this is LYNN HARRIS was an ancestor. He is an ancestor for the Black gay community. And his impact to me still resonates today. And he was kind of like the Terry Lynn, I'm sorry, I can't think of her name right now. She's the one that wrote, what is that movie? I'm having deer in the headlights. It's what's that movie? Waiting to Exhale. I'm sorry. I digress. I was trying to get her name. I can't get her name right now. But anyway, he was kind of like the equivalent to that person. They were kind of in that same, they had their own lanes. She was writing for Black women. He was writing for Black gay men. And he had a big audience of Black women that actually bought his books. Ironically, I had the same journey when I started writing my poetry books. It was a lot of Black women investing in me and taking chances on me. And it's still like that to this day, which I thought was really funny. You're writing for Black gay men, but Black women are really jumping on board, and actually whites as well. And he's, again, a big influence on my work now and then. And I like the fact that he said that it's not about being a Black gay man, but being a great writer and not just being labeled Black and gay. He just happened to be those things. And in his later work, he started to write a little bit more commercially to me. He kind of got away from the gay storylines that he was writing, which was fine. I mean, that was his evolution and where he was. But literally, his impact has been felt I believe, by other writers as well on this journey. And anybody that's familiar with his work, I could attest or could agree that his impact has been awesome even now. And again, I find myself a little nervous, and I think it's because it's bringing up a lot of memories from that time. And I feel like I have failed him a little bit because I never mentioned him before up until now. And I guess it's better late than never. Again, it's kind of one of those things that he has made such a pivotal role in my life. And again, maybe that time was so painful and sad and happy, and the world should know more about LYNN HARRIS. They just should know more. And I hope that there's a movie in the works on his life and on his work, because there's a lot of books out there that have become movies and it just feels like they're purposely dismissing his work. And I could be wrong. Like I said, maybe somewhere I heard that there was an Invisible Life movie in the works, but I have yet to see it. I've yet to hear about it. And again, it's one of those things. What I also loved about him and his presence is that he wrote about Black men. He was diverse in his writing. They didn't all look the same. They weren't all jocks and statuettes. Some of them were feminine, some of them were masculine, some of them were, they were very diverse in looks, and the way he would describe his characters reminded me of Langston Hughes. They were very vivid, whether they were light skinned or curly hair or whatever it was. You could see these characters and you could understand. And then he would give you like a backstory on everybody, so you kind of knew why they were the way they were. And as I got older, I started meeting those characters in real life, meeting a Basil. And I knew a lot of closeted men because I was closeted. And he made me appreciate the effeminate guy as well. And to be honest with you, I had more fun with effeminate guys. They were more carefree. And I was reluctant to be friends with or even date guys who were effeminate because I didn't want to be clocked. And what I mean by that, I didn't want nobody to think I was gay. But in hindsight, I would probably do that differently now if I had to go back, because I was a little envious of the fact that they were so carefree and they didn't care what people thought. And I wasn't ready for that yet. I wasn't ready for that kind of freedom as I feel now. But I had so much admiration the way he would write about those characters as well. And he kind of covered everything. He really didn't leave no. He wrote about the bisexual guy. He wrote about the married guy. And in my journey, I experienced all of those guys. And it was almost like he prepared me for them ahead of time. So when I met them, it's like, oh, okay, this is so-and-so. And it also helped me see myself and what kind of gay man I was, or I was becoming. And even though I lost 2 partners to AIDS at that time, he helped me to appreciate those lives. I mean, I honestly am very, even though it was tragedy in terms of them passing away, they saved my life. And he was part of that. He helped me, what's the word I look for? Feel at peace with HIV and AIDS and losing people that meant something to me. Their lives mattered to me. And I don't have any regrets about that. And I would do it over again. And it, again, by the grace of God, that I didn't catch anything, that I didn't contract AIDS or HIV. And when I say it's miraculous, it really, really is. So to survive that time when I lost a lot of friends, he was very helpful in making me feel better about, again, going through that process of losing someone. And he was writing about it, people dying and funerals and the process of grieving. And that's why I wonder why people don't speak his name more often. And again, I'll speak his name until I'm in the ground. It's just one of those things. He's made that kind of impact on my life. And there's so many things I could talk about, so many different directions I could go in. But my writing is definitely reflective of the way he writes. It's real life. It's about love. It's about pain. It's about anguish. It's about heartbreak. And my poetry, my writings are not about roses are red and violets are blue. You know, it's about recognizing love, and acknowledging pain, going through the process of healing, whatever that looks like for you. And I want my books to be a friend to the reader, because again, and I hope that my poetry is, because again, I write about everything the way he did. It was not about life being perfect, or, you know, you're not going to have any kind of sorrow or no challenges in your life. I write about all those things, especially as a black man, because I'm a black man first and I'm gay second. And I live my life with intention. I say things intentionally, as I believe he did. And to me, what's the point if you're not using your art to change lives or to impact people? And that's the word that keeps coming to mind, impact. Who doesn't want to make an impact on your life? And I pray every day that I'm making an impact on someone, even if it's just one person. And something Tupac said, and I'm probably misquoting, but if I can trigger the mind of someone that makes the great change, if a young person or a college student or a high school student, anyone that's reading my work that starts something, a movement, or it triggers an idea in their mind, then I did my job. I did my job. And I believe the same thing with LYNN, who sparked a fire in me that has never gone out, ever. And again, if I could hand his books out door to door to young people, I would. And I believe that colleges and high school students should put him in the curriculum, especially today's time, because again, I think young people are learning a lot about sexuality and gay life on social media. And before social media, LYNN Harris was my go-to as far as the gay experience. He was the one that taught me how to carry myself, how to walk with pride, how to make friends, how to love another man, and also how to heal, after heartbreak, and how to. He kind of covered everything. He really didn't shy away from stuff, because I cried a lot. His books were they were tears of joy. Sometimes it was characters that you liked that died or did something, and you were just like, I would be bawling as I was reading. And then one thing about me, I used to ride the train, ride the bus. I would cry in a heartbeat. I didn't care if anybody was looking at me. I mean, I'm still that way. If I feel something, I'm going to show it. And I guess my whole point in this particular podcast is the fact that we're out there. There is a slew of Black writers that, including myself, that know about that experience, that are writing from that experience. And this is dedicated to them as well. And we have to continue to live out the legacy that LYNN HARRIS started. Because again, representation does matter. And I really didn't understand what that meant until recent years, really, because I really wasn't paying attention. But I want to see more Black gay activists and people that look like me, move like me. They don't have to agree with me, but just representation matters, because right now I feel like the world sees one type of gay man that they seem comfortable with. And I don't particularly care for that. I feel like the white gay experience has a rainbow of different white gay characters that they're not afraid to share. And we need to do that more. I want to see more Black gay diversity in television and movies and social media, everything, and that's my fight. And I'd like to believe that if LYNN HARRIS was alive today, I feel like he would be the same way, sharing diversity. Because if you look at LYNN HARRIS, James Baldwin, Langston Hughes, they were all very different looking men, but very, again, impactful with their communities. And we're still talking about them to this day. And he's right up there to me with the Langston Hugheses and the James Baldwins of the world. And I just wanted to take the time, and I hope you understand my perspective. Again, I'm all over the place, I know, and I'm going to go back and re-listen to this podcast, but I just wanted to speak his name, LYNN HARRIS, the man from Arkansas that really created a genre that wasn't there before. He shed a light on Black men, Black gay men, and I am, what's the word? I'm embracing that light. I am welcoming that light. I am shining that light back at him and his legacy. And do yourself a favor and just Google him, watch his videos, pick up his books. And again, I would highly recommend to a parent that has a Black gay child, male or female, to buy his books. Maybe give them to them as gifts if they're going off to college or whatever, and have a discussion, or read one of his books yourself to really understand that journey. And again, I'm not saying it's a Bible or anything like that. It's just something a nice tool if you're discovering some things about your child, or if you're discovering that you're gay or you have feelings of being gay. It's a good introduction into the life. And as always, I pray life is treating you well, wherever you are in the world. And I want to say again, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to my perspectives, my thoughts, my opinions, because that's what they are. And as always, I pray life is treating you well, wherever you are in the world, and that you're one day closer to your dreams, hopes, prayers, and realities coming true. Thank you for listening.